Hello, you're watching TVP World News. I'm Jonasz Lewiński. In Poland's capital Warsaw, European ministers of trade and finance are gathering for an informal two-day meeting. The summit, held at Warsaw's historic Citadel, will be chaired by Polish Minister of Finance Andrzej Domański. During the first day of the assembly, officials will discuss the macroeconomic consequences of Washington's trade tariffs for the European Union and talk about the competitiveness of European financial markets and their role in supporting investment. The meeting will also focus on defense spending, summarizing the discussions in this area held since the beginning of the Polish presidency of the EU Council. Other key topics include the current geopolitical situation and the state of financial markets. Defense officials from some 50 countries are set to meet in Brussels NATO headquarters on Friday as part of the 27th meeting of the Ukraine Defense Contact Group, also known as the Ramstein Group. The gathering, presided over by the United Kingdom and Germany, will revolve around further aid shipments to Kiev. On the eve of the meeting, the British government announced a fresh military assistance package worth £450 million. According to British Defence Secretary John Healey, the meeting also aims to put pressure on Vladimir Putin to force him to end the Russian aggression. For the first time since the formation of the group back in April 2022, the meeting will not be attended in person by the US Secretary of State. Washington's top defense official, Pete Hegseth, is expected to join the meeting only virtually. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelenskyy has announced a new sanctions package targeting Russia's shadow fleet. His statement coincides with a proposed US law also targeting Moscow's fleet of ships, which was introduced by a bipartisan group of senators on the 9th of April.
I have also instructed lawmakers to draft new Ukrainian sanctions packages. Our security services have provided appropriate justification. These will be strong sanctions targeting the shadow tanker fleet Moscow uses to finance the war, targeting war propagandists who try to weaken our defense and support Russia, and also targeting some officials, names well known to all Ukrainians who once held influence. Preparations for relevant bills are ongoing, and everything will be rolled out step by step. We are also working to synchronize these Ukrainian sanctions packages with the decisions of our partners, especially in the European Union and other key jurisdictions around the world.
Ministers of Defense from 30 countries forming part of the so-called Coalition of the Willing met on Thursday at the NATO headquarters in Brussels to discuss their next steps for a peacekeeping mission and military aid to Ukraine. Our EU correspondent Alex Kadir has the story.
Well, defence ministers from 30 countries gathered here at NATO HQ today to coordinate their efforts in supporting Ukraine after a peace deal is agreed. The big question, of course, is what will that peace look like and how will it be enforced by this coalition of the willing? It is led by the UK, led by France. We heard from the UK Defence Secretary John Healey just earlier today. The big question, of course, is how will they come up with these plans? Exactly what will peace look like? Will the US be there to support? What the UK Defence Secretary said very clearly was that these plans are being kept secret, but they are concrete.
Our planning is real and substantial. Our plans are well developed, and we have clear objectives for Ukraine.
So a clear plan for Ukraine. It includes security in the sky, security at sea, and developing the Ukrainian armed forces for them to be the greatest security guarantee Ukraine could have. These are the outlines of the plan we've seen so far. But as I said, the big question remains, what will the US's role be in this coalition? They have said they will not send troops, but some member countries are nervous as to whether or not the US comes at all. If they do offer support, perhaps more countries will follow suit. But that question remains unanswered for now. Alex Kadir, TVP World, NATO headquarters, Brussels.
Robert Pszczel, senior fellow at the Center for Eastern Studies, told TVP World that Americans who are in the driver's seat have given no indication that they would be militarily involved in Ukraine. The statement comes just as the defence ministers from 30 countries in the coalition of the willing, led by France and Britain, met at the NATO headquarters in Brussels, with the US being noticeably absent.
If there were to be some form of an agreement, for which most people, myself included, would say we're still very far away, the Americans, who are, again, I repeat, in the driving seat politically, have clearly indicated they don't want to be part of this militarily, certainly when it comes to any sort of forces on the ground, and perhaps even more. And secondly, they've also indicated they don't want NATO to be actually coordinating this. So the fact that this meeting that we can see, I know this place, this is NATO headquarters, but NATO in this case is providing, I would say, unfortunately, only the venue.
Ukrainian military analysts report that Russian forces have made advances in the east of the country, capturing villages in the Donetsk and Dnipro regions. Local media say that around 125 clashes occurred between Ukrainian and Russian forces, with Moscow's troops gaining ground near 4 settlements in the Donetsk region. Meanwhile, emergency crews are clearing debris in the central southern town of Ozyrne after a Thursday evening drone attack killed 1 person. The local governor said the attack on an apartment block wounded 5 others, including a child. The strike tore the facade off 1 building and damaged 4 others. The agreement between the European Union and Ukraine for free passage of Ukrainian trucks has been extended through the end of 2025. The agreement allows for the smoother transit of Ukrainian goods through EU countries, improving the war-torn countries' access to the world market. Under the agreement, Ukrainian cargo can enter the European Union without special transport permits. Originally set to expire on the 30th of June, the deal that was put in place shortly after the onset of Russia's full-scale invasion will now be extended by the European Commission. Besides facilitating Ukrainian exports, the agreement also enables the transport of crucial goods such as fuel and humanitarian aid. US Ambassador to Ukraine Bridget Brink will be leaving her post ahead of the scheduled end of her tenure. The reports were confirmed by the US State Department late Thursday evening. According to sources in the Trump administration, Ambassador Brink has not yet formally submitted her resignation. At the same time, over the past day, she has reportedly been making farewell calls to her colleagues. As per one unnamed senior US official, her resignation stems from a mix of personal and policy concerns, including recent layoffs in the US aid agency. Moreover, Brink has been stationed for the past 3 years in a war zone where diplomats serve without bringing their families along. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen announced a 90-day pause on EU tariff countermeasures targeting US goods. The EU executive said the aim is to give negotiations a chance between Brussels and Washington to reduce tensions which threaten to erupt into a transatlantic trade war. More from our EU correspondent Angela Skujins in Brussels.
European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen announced on Thursday in the Belgian capital a 90-day pause on EU countermeasures targeting roughly €20 billion of US goods. Now, the announcement came after US President Donald Trump made his own revelation from the Oval Office in Washington that he would lower those trade levies on European goods from 20% to 10%, and they would only kick in from 90 days. Now, the EU clearly saw room to negotiate. Here we're expecting conversations between Brussels and Washington. A European Commission spokesperson, Olaf Gill, was lobbied by journalists today regarding the tenor of what these talks would look like. Let's take a listen to what he had to say.
Our approach hasn't changed. We're preparing for all outcomes. All our instruments are on the table. We want to talk to the Americans. We want to achieve deals that benefit both sides. We've offered them 0 for 0 on industrial products and goods. We believe we can reach all sorts of beneficial outcomes from both sides that would avoid the types of tariffs that we believe are harmful and counterproductive. So we're continuing all our preparations and we will continue to talk to our member states, talk to our industry, and we remain ready to engage in a meaningful way with the US.
So what instruments are on the table if these dialogues hit deadlock? We're expecting the EU to make good on its three-tiered countermeasure approach. The original date for this was the 15th of May. That was when it would start, and it would run up till the 1st of December. But we'll have to wait and see what happens with these conversations between these two major economic superpowers. Angela Skujins from Brussels for TVP World.
Commenting on the tariffs recently introduced by the United States, Wojciech Przybylski from Visegrad Insight told TVP World that countries like Poland must analyze the long-term interests of the United States. According to our guest, the Trump administration is doing the same as their predecessors, although with greater intensity.
We've seen and heard his U.S. trade representative, Ambassador Green, in the Congress not being able to coherently respond to the questions from Congress representatives who were asking, what does he know about the strategy and negotiations? And it seemed like nobody knows that much in the team of Donald Trump. So what countries like Poland have to do is to analyze the long-term interests of the US overall and not take it at the face value of one particular leader, which is of course very important, an elected official, the seating president in the White House, but see the long-term strategy of the US, which overall has been very alike over several terms since Mr. Obama came into the White House and over then to Donald Trump and Mr. Biden and now back to Donald Trump. The policy is, as we have written in the Visegrad Insight editorial recently, is to back economic partnerships with force and to change the or reshape from globalism without limits to matching the economic trade alliances with security alliances. And this realignment has been ongoing and now just has been shifted to a higher gear.
The US State Department has warned that if Iran were to expel inspectors from the International Atomic Energy Agency, this would be seen as an escalation of the already tense situation in the region and be inconsistent with the actions of a peaceful nuclear program. The comments delivered by State Department spokesperson Tammy Bruce come ahead of an expected meeting of US and Iranian officials in Oman.
First of all, these actions, the threat of that kind of action, of course, is inconsistent with Iran's claims of a peaceful nuclear program, right? Also, expelling IAEA inspectors from Iran would be an escalation and a miscalculation on Iran's part. The United States remains deeply concerned that Iran is amassing a growing stockpile of highly enriched uranium for which there is no credible peaceful purpose. Iran is the only non-nuclear weapon state producing highly enriched uranium at this level.
6 people, including 3 children, were killed when a sightseeing helicopter crashed into New York's Hudson River on Thursday afternoon. The helicopter reportedly plunged into the water inverted without a tail rotor or a main rotor blade. Emergency services sprang into action immediately after the accident, but no survivors have been found. The victims include a family of Spanish tourists, 2 adults and 3 children, as well as a 36-year-old pilot. The US National Transportation Safety Board is currently looking into the cause of the tragedy. And with this, we conclude our news bulletin. Please stay with us here on TVP World for more latest news and updates.